let's make a weaving.
Let's make art together with Miss Mullins today.
To get started, you're going to need 2 pieces of paper. Here I have 2 different colors of construction paper, a ruler, some scissors, and a pencil. Alright, so we're going to start with one of our papers vertical. That means straight up and down. We're going to take the bottom and fold it up to the top. Make sure to line it up as best you can. Then crease the bottom. Then you're going to take your ruler and put it on the bottom. Now I'm going to take a second to teach you how to use a ruler. First, you're going to line up the end line to the edge of the paper, not the edge of the ruler, but that first line. Now we're going to mark on the inches side, and we're going to put a mark at each inch. Once we're done with that, we're going to move to the top of our folded piece of paper, and we want to create a small space or gap at the top, about 1 inch, something like this. And we're going to draw a line. This will come in handy later. Next, we're going to add some dots up at the very top of our folded piece of paper. Again, make sure you're on the inches side. Make sure that the first line is lined up with the edge of the paper, not the edge of the ruler, but that first line. And we're going to draw a notch or a dot at every inch. Once you're done, it should look something like this. You should have dots on the bottom, dots at the top, and a line close to the top. Double check and make sure you have the closed side closest to you and the open side furthest from you. Now take your ruler, or you can take any straight edge, and line the dots up. Make sure the ruler is lined up with the top and bottom dot. Then, using the ruler to create a straight line, you will use your pencil starting at the bottom and draw all the way to that line you made. You want to stop at the line. This comes in handy later. You're going to continue to do this all the way across your paper. Starting at the bottom, draw a line all the way to that line you drew at the top. Alright, now you're going to take your scissors and very carefully cut a straight line across. Once you get to the line at the top, stop. Don't go any further. You do not want to cut all the way across, or else you may have to tape later and it just becomes a bit of a problem. So do your best to cut to the line, not across the line. And we're going to do that for the whole page. Once you've got all that cut out, you now have what we call in the weaving world our warps. You have some pencil marks on here, so let's turn it over so that the nice side is showing. And here we have our warps. Now we're going to take our other piece of paper and we're going to turn it horizontally, so side to side, not up and down. And we're going to take our scissors and I'm going to cut some thin strips. These will become what we call in weaving our wefts. This is what we use to weave onto our warps. If you would like to use a ruler to measure out your wefts, you can, but I'm just eyeballing it. So now that my warp and wefts are done, I'm going to make sure that my warps are vertical. We want them going up and down. And make sure the pencil marks are on the back. I'm going to start by taking my first weft and I'm going to start weaving it in. Now the pattern with weaving is over, under, and it repeats itself. So I'm going to start by taking my first warp, lifting it up and sticking the weft underneath. And I'm going to repeat that pattern, over, under. So now I'm going over, pick up the warp and go under, over, pick up the warp, go under, over, pick up the warp, go under. Great. Now, when we take our next weft, it's going to do the opposite of the one before it. So we're still going to go over, under, but it's going to start differently. So the one before it started under, so this one I'm going to start over. So I'm going to pick up the next warp and go under, over, pick up the warp, under, over, pick up the warp, under, over, pick up the warp, under, over. Make sure after you've woven in your weft that you push it up until it hits the weft above it. This makes it nice and snug. Then I'm going to repeat that process. Over, under, push up the weft. Over, under, push up the weft. Make sure you weave your weft the opposite of the one before it. As you get closer to the bottom, you may notice that it's getting a little tight and a little harder to work with. I did happen to cut some of my wefts just a little skinnier than the others, so I chose to use that one for my last one so it would fit a little better. You should get what looks like a checker pattern. So this is how my weaving turned out. You can always go back with crayons, markers, color pencils, and decorate it. Maybe draw something in each square. It's up to you, but I hope you enjoyed learning how to weave with me.